If you would like to see what is inside my second year Volume 1 and 2 Book of Shadows and get a glimpse of my second year of being a witch, then keep watching this video. Hello, exquisite magical beings. If you're new here, welcome to my channel, Emerald Moon. I'm Beck. If you're returning to my channel, thank you so much for the love and support. If you're new, checking out my channel, please remember to hit the subscribe button and show me that support. I noticed that a lot of you really enjoyed my video on my first Book of Shadows from my first year of being a witch. There's a link to it in the description if you want to go check it out if you haven't already. So I thought that I would give you a flip through of my second year Book of Shadows, Volume 1 and Volume 2. And just before we dive in, I just want to say that there are some pages that I have had to cover up due to the sensitive personal nature of the content. So as you can see, I have two separate books here. I have what I call my Volume 1 and my Volume 2 of my second year Book of Shadows. So to start with, we're going to start with Volume 1 here. I got this book at a local spiritual expo in my local area. I was really attracted to the material cover. I have a material cover on my first Book of Shadows. And I really liked this golden thread that is woven through all the, sewn into all the fabric as part of the pattern, and I thought it would save me a lot of time on having to cover the book myself, which I did with my first Book of Shadows. I did the cover all myself, and I thought I would just get one that was already covered. So to hold it shut, because it's you know, a bit of a chunky monkey, so to hold it shut, I have an amethyst crystal on a piece of leather, and I charged the crystal with protection to protect my Book of Shadows. So I do have it on this piece of leather with a little clasp that I can just undo here. So the first page I have is a Book of Shadows blessing, and this is to protect the book as well, because as I have said, there's some sensitive things in here. It's not that I'm a secretive person, but I believe, you know, it should be my choice if I want to share this part of myself with other people. I do have a solitary witches read here at the front as well, and it pretty much states that I work with all the elements of air, fire, earth and water, plus angels and spirits, and that I have not chosen to walk a Wiccan path and to follow a path that aligns with my heart. Here is a meditation that I did just before the year started, and I recorded it in my Book of Shadows, and a picture of an example of what the vision was in my meditation. Then I have some info pages the Southern Hemisphere Witches Wheel of the Year, special moon events for the year, like eclipses, supermoons, blue moons, and then a list of the moon phases, dates, and times for the year. So if you've seen my Book of Shadows from my first year, you can see that the first year was all about the Sabbats, and this year, in my second year, it's changed to learning and following the moon phases. And I decided to change my focus because learning about the moon magic, and the very basics of astrology was one of the major reasons I chose to become a witch. And I really wanted to educate myself in that, so I could incorporate it a whole lot more in my witchcraft practice. Then I have a New Year's ritual written by Belle Cornish from the Intuitive Goddess Academy, which goes through choosing your yearly goals and also your word of the year, and tapping into our emotions to really drill down on what our heart truly desires. And then this next list is a list of the full moon names in the Southern Hemisphere based on the uniqueness of the Australian landscape and biosphere, because it never made sense to me to base our Australian moon phases by just reversing the moon names from the Northern Hemisphere, because of how, you know, diverse our own country and landscape is in our own hemisphere. So it goes through each of the names and has a little bit of information on the different events that occurred during that month as to why it's named, though, why the moon phases are named what they're named. So it goes through the whole entire year for each month. This moon phase spread came from a printable from the Magical Creatrix, and goes through each of the phases and their energies. Although I don't really address tarot on my channel, which is funny because it's a big part of my witchcraft, as well as oracle readings. And at this stage of my witchcraft practice, I had just started looking at tarot and oracle, which you'll see further on. But in my second year of being a witch, I decided that I wanted to learn tarot. So I started with the tarot card for that year based on numerology. And this is the message of the Hangman for that year, which was written by Biddy Tarot, who is a Australian tarot reader and tarot teacher. So I also have my horoscopes for the year by Shani Nicholas. It's really interesting going back and reading through these. Saturn and Pluto were in my rising sign this year, and it was the year that my long-term relationship had ended. So I have here the horoscopes for my rising sign, my sun sign, and my moon sign. So I just went through and printed out the information. I recorded a dream here. I like to record my dreams that feel important for one reason or another. I feel sometimes that they're spirit talking to me, giving me profound messages or information, and other times they offer important insights into what's going on in my mind. And if I can bring it into my awareness, then I can start to try and work through it, and a lot of times it needs to be shadow worked. So I like to record my dreams in my book of shadows for those reasons. I also added any tarot spreads in my book of shadows that I thought I would like to use once I had learnt more on how to read the cards, like this one by Brisbane Tarot School on helping getting a clearer picture of what is actually going on when having one of those, you know, bad days and you just can't seem to get a handle on it. So I stuck that in here as well. And this is just a creative spread that I did for the new moon in Aquarius. One of the things that I learnt from my first book of shadows was that I found exploring the sabbats through creativity as well as ritual and spells and altars, it made it much easier for me to understand and more of a, you know, concrete concept, and to learn, you know, what they specifically meant to me and my specific practice. So I've started to do the same with the moon phases, specifically the new moon and the full moon. Then it goes into the horoscope for that new moon, and, you know, my rising sun and moon sign. Then this numerology ritual that I adapted from one written by Rhonda, I think pronounce her last name Noise, from the Mystic Tribe magazine, and it's based on the numerological energy of the year, which corresponds with the solar plexus and, you know, stepping into our power. And I found this was a really powerful ritual, and it was completely aligned with where I was at the time. The numerological number for the year that I did this was 3, which is also my life path number. Then I have my full moon in Virgo horoscopes. So just little snippets this time of my same 3 signs. And then around this time, I joined Kylie's Psychic Circle group course because I wanted to learn also how to read oracle card. But the course taught me so much more than that, which I have recorded in my Book of Shadows. But it was an absolute amazing experience, and I'm really grateful for all the things that I got to learn, because I felt it really enriched and added to my witchcraft, as well as learning more about myself. So these are a recording of the meditation exercises that I experienced meeting my spirit guide, and also a remote viewing exercise, which I've just popped in a little envelope here. This article is written by James Sargent and is about celebrating Maybon from a hedge witchcraft point of view, along with a recipe for spiced mulled ginger wine, which sounded delicious. So you can see from this that I'm still exploring working with, you know, the Wheel of the Year in my second year of witchcraft. It's just not my main focal point like it was in my first year. This page has more recordings of dreams, and opposite is a decorative page for the new moon in Aries, with pictures that I printed off Pinterest that I felt corresponded to Aries energy. And these prints here are from the Magical Creatrix. This is another tarot spread by the Brisbane Tarot School, where you draw 3 cards for 8 areas of your life, and it's just an overview spread. Here are more recordings on dreams, and I think that I was becoming aware of how much my third eye was really opening up, and I was being spoken to a lot from spirit and guides in my dreams during this period of time, and especially with a lot of the meditations that I was doing through the Psychic Circle group. And sometimes I remember a little, significant piece of the dream, and other times I would remember most of the dream, like this one. This is an article from Magic magazine about lunar magic, because what I was all about, and I wanted to learn more about that. And I also included in my Book of Shadows poetry that I wrote, or in this case, a blessing that I created. This is a printout of the moon visibility for the month of May, and a short recording of a dream from the beginning of the month. And this is my Samhain tarot reading, and it was a 16 card long reading, and it was quite chunky, so I just put it inside this envelope rather than writing it out in my Book of Shadows, because it was really long. And then following on from that is my Samhain ritual, and it was one of those really profound experiences, and I was working with one of my goddesses, Lilith. Another new moon, this time in Taurus, and the creative page with the constellation and symbols and characteristics and correspondences. And then here is I don't know if you can see it very well because of the type of pen that I used, but this is a list of information about the house and degree of that new moon in Taurus, because that was the exact position that Chiron sits in my natal chart. So I, went and researched it. I think I got the information on Cafe Astrology and wrote down my findings, and it was really accurate information. I felt like it really resonated and gave me a lot of insight about and confirmation about who I am and what it is that I find that I struggle with in life. This spread is all about my goddess Lilith that I was working with very closely at that time, and I still do. This I actually braided together with some other ribbon that I did as part of a ritual that I did when I was working with Lilith at the time, kind of like a knot spell. Another type of recording that I have added to my Book of Shadows is journal entries. They may be about a vision or an intuitive feeling that I had that came to fruition, or messages that I hear from spirit, or a spiritual experience that I've had outside the Sabbats and Esbats. Here is a dedication that I wrote to the Dark Goddess as I was working with Dark Goddess energy at the time, and specifically with Goddess Lilith, as I have already mentioned. And this is a poem that I wrote called Deep Dark Waters. I don't know if you can see the writing on there. And it's just about some of the feelings that came up for me that I was working through, some really shadowy feelings. So I have added that in as well. Then another tarot reading recording here that I did with a new deck that I had just purchased, the Druid Craft Tarot. And I found that the deck was really like earthy and calming, So I tried doing a 3-card reading with it about my purpose. This is another tarot spread from the Brisbane Tarot School. And it's just about trying to pinpoint the actual cause when you're feeling really stressed and you're not sure why. This one, I have added some notes about a spiritual counseling session that I had with one of my favorite witches that I absolutely idolize, Kelly Ann Maddox, who's here on YouTube and is quite well known in the witchcraft community. And I have followed her from the very beginning of starting down the path of witchcraft. So I added that in there, and also some other advice that I got. This spread here is a winter solstice spread by Biddy Tarot, and it asks questions relating to the shadow self and inner work and growth that you can focus on during the season of the winter solstice, so Samhain. And I think it's also a good spread to work with really at any time of the year, because you can always be working, you know, with the shadow self at any time. During that year, Colette Baron Reid held a free stars and cards session where you could look up where your progressed moon was currently sitting in your astrological chart, and then do an oracle reading about the repeating patterns in your life. So, you know, very along the lines of shadow work. And then this page is about the oracle reading that I did, which was a 3-card reading. Working with my ancestors is a big part of my witchcraft practice. So when I saw this spell to honor past loved ones by Harmony Nice, I thought it was a really great spell to spend some time with my ancestors and to acknowledge and pay my respects to them. So I think that was off of her YouTube channel. Oh yes, and this is some of the notes that I had also recorded from her book. Her book's called Wicca, and I had recorded things from it about the new moon, the correspondences to do with the days of the week, and also some meditations as well. Meditation is also a big part of my focus for my second year of witchcraft, and still is to this day. So it's interesting looking back and seeing the things that I have incorporated into my practice and where it started, or how it continued and how it's evolved. I also read Tess Whitehurst's book, The Magic of Trees. I use a lot of botanicals in my practice, so a kind of very folk magic, so lots of herbs, but I wanted to get more information about trees, and I found her book really great that had a lot about correspondences and also spells as well. And I use this in my witchcraft as part of my herbal magics, but, you know, extending it out into trees, which, you know, that seemed pretty logical to me, and I feel like I have a special relationship with trees. They're quite important to me, so I've recorded that in my book of shadows. This is another recording of a meditation, and this time it was a tree meditation, so now incorporating the magic of trees with meditation and starting to put them together. So this is a tree meditation that I did, and it's the message that I received from the tree during the meditation. And here we have some more tree correspondences, and I didn't take all of, you know, she had a lot of information in her book about different trees, and, you know, she's not an Australian author or witch, so I have actually just gone through the book and grabbed out the things that I have used, or trees that I recognize or have access to. Then we come to the 6-month mark, and I like to do a mid-year check-in. This one's by Susanna Conway, which a lot of people know, and they also use this mid-year check-in in, and it delves deep into reflecting on the word of the year that was chosen at the beginning of the year. Mine was flow, which I forgot to actually record at the beginning of the year, but that's okay. And it goes quite in depth on the reflection, so it's quite a number of pages. This article here about the magic of jasmine, its correspondences, health properties and magical properties, and how it can be used in spells, by Michelle Plato. And I have just covered up the entry here was recording of a very graphic dream that I had, and I actually couldn't put it into words and I had to draw it, and the images, I would say, very, very triggering, and you know, I wouldn't want to put that on YouTube. I really loved this poem by Vera, I think you pronounce her last name Nazarian, that I found, and I had to add it into my book of shadows because I loved it. And then these entries are of several experiences that I had of hearing some songs, some synchronicities, and a self-love journal entry on reflecting what makes me feel great about me. Then heading into the new moon in Leo, this is my ritual for the new moon, my new moon intention, which I've put in this little envelope and just stuck down with sticker, and the correspondences and energy of that new moon. After that, I have a full moon tarot spread and affirmations for the full moon in Aquarius, my tarot reading, and plus my full moon tarot reading for that full moon in Aquarius as well. And then the last entry that I have is this intuitive message that I received from Spirit, which I have written down here, and that ends the first volume of my second year book of shadows. This video is already going to be quite long, so I'll do the second volume in a separate video. So if you've liked this so far, please head over to the next video and remember to like this one before you leave. I'll see you over in the next video. Bye.